Hey creeps, it's Cameron again, and welcome back to my channel where I talk about books, movies, writing, and all things spooky. On today's episode of Library Macabre, I have the first part of a very, very large summer book haul. Now you've probably noticed that I haven't had a July book haul or a June book haul, and now we're into August, so I thought I may as well just combine it all into one huge 3 or 4 part video, because there is well over 200 books here. There's actually a bookstore where I get a lot of my mass market horror paperbacks. They decided to, since they're mostly a comic book store, they decided to start getting rid of their paperbacks and their other books and just make it for comics and board games exclusively. So they offered to sell me a bunch of their horror books for $1 a piece, when usually they're about $2.50, which is still a good deal. I've been buying from these guys for a really long time, and they were very, very kind and just let me take a bunch of books for $1 a piece. And I would say I probably took home about 150 books. I cleaned them out. So there's that. I also have a stack of review books. I have a stack of newer books that I've bought over the past couple of months. I also have a bunch of horror paperbacks that I bought off of a friend of mine. He's been giving me really great deals too. And then I've hit up some thrift stores and the library that I work at. We had our big bookmobile book sale, so I grabbed a couple of books from there. So there's my explanation for you. It doesn't change the fact though that I am absolutely crazy for taking in this many books. I've gotten rid of a bunch of books the past couple of months, so I have made room for all of these, but still, it's a little over the top. Anyway, this is going to be multi-part book haul, so you're going to see parts of this going up throughout the month. I'm going to start though with my review books. I have a good little stack here. Now, about a month ago, I did close for review submissions. I have not been accepting any more review books just because these are all review books on this little cart, and then I have all of these as well. So I have a lot to get caught up on. So I have put out a statement just saying, hey, I'm not accepting any more review books until further notice. That being said, I did get quite a few review books just before putting out that statement. And also a lot of people have sent me books regardless. So thank you to all those authors and publishers. You guys are awesome. But it's going to take me a while, just to let you know. Okay, going into the review books. Here are 3 books from Macabre Inc., aka Crossroad Press. I actually have a buddy named David Dodd who works for Crossroad Press. He designs a lot of their layouts and the covers, and he sent a few my way for review. So the first one is The End of the World. This is by Dan Hink, I think is how you pronounce it, or Hink. And I believe this is exactly how it sounds. It's a book about the end of the world. And this has a really nice cover, and there are also some really cool illustrations inside. That one there is really cool. Very, very creepy, kind of has a Clive Barker look to it. So there's The End of the World, The Inn and Other Dark Tales by Sarah Brooke, which looks really awesome. I love a good spooky house story. And the next one is Engines of Ruin, and this is by Lucas Mangum. I actually follow him on Instagram, so when I got this in the mail, I was like, that name looks very familiar. And then I found out, yeah, it's the same guy that I follow, so I'm excited to check out some of his work. I also have An Arc of Violet by Scott Thomas, and that's the guy who wrote Kill Creek, which is a very popular book. This is kind of a ghost story about a little girl who has an imaginary friend, so you'll probably guess where that goes. It's a nice chunky book. This comes out September, so I need to get to this very soon. Next, I have volume number 18 of Bourbon Pen. This is a literary journal focusing on horror and weird fiction, and I have a friend that has a short story in this book. His name is Nicholas Siegel, and the story he wrote, I can't remember what it's called. In Case of Fire Shelf is what the story's called. So he was very kind and sent this my way to read and review. I did go ahead and read his story since it was so short, and I thought it was great. A very strange and eerie kind of story, something you have to kind of unpack for yourself. So very good, and I'm excited to read some of the other stories in this book. And I'm not gonna lie, that cover really weirds me out, and I kind of love it. I also got a spooky middle grade book for review. This is called Oliver Crumb and the Briarwood Witch. This is by Chris Cooper. I read his previous book, which was called The Dreadful Objects. Thought it was great. So I'm very excited to read this one. I love that this is a middle grade book because while I was reading The Dreadful Objects, I kept thinking he would be great at writing middle grade fiction because his writing style was so whimsical. So this should be really fun. And speaking of spooky middle grade, I received 4 books from the Fright Vision series for review. I got the first one for review that was called The Cursed Coin, and these are the remaining books that are currently out, though I do know that there's a few more that are about to be released very soon. The first one here is Picture Day, which I already read and I thought it was really cute, about a kid who gets shocked by the camera on Picture Day because of his retainer in his mouth, and he begins kind of time traveling and living the day over and over. I thought it was really fun. And then the rest I've not read yet. This one's called Wishful Thinking. It's book number 2. Book number 3 is Framed for Life. And book number 4 is #Graveyard Challenge. Next up is The Hungry Ones, which is book number 2 of the Messy Man series by Chris Sorensen. I read and reviewed the first book, I believe it was last year. Loved it, thought it was great. So I'm very excited to get into the second book and find out where the story goes from there. And then next is Ration. This is by Cody T. Luff. And on the back here, just to give you an idea of what this is about, it says it takes place in a world where every calorie is rationed and the girls who live there are forced to weigh their own hunger against the lives of others. So it sounds very current. And then here we have the new Stranger Things book. This is called Darkness on the Edge of Town by Adam Christopher. I read the first one called Suspicious Minds. I reviewed it. Didn't love it, but I hear this one's a lot better, and also it's about Hopper and Eleven, so already that makes me care a little bit more about the characters, so I'm excited to read this. And then another book I got for review is Let There Be Dark by Alan Lee Harris. This is from Capricorn Literary. It's part of their Resurrected Horrors line, where they take a lot of out-of-print vintage horror paperbacks and give them new life. So they reprinted this one. I believe it was originally published in 91, I think. 94, actually. And lastly, we have the new book from Paul Tremblay, and that is Growing Things and Other Stories. And I've been very excited about this because I have read all of Paul Tremblay's books, and I especially loved A Head Full of Ghosts. So this kind of ties into that in some ways. There are a few stories in the book that tie in, especially the Growing Things story. So very excited to read this. All right, so those were all of the review books, and next I'm going to go over some of the newer modern horror books before I get into the vintage titles. First, we have Other Voices, Other Tombs, and this is the newest anthology from Cemetery Gates Media. And this features stories by Keelan Patrick Burke, Gemma Files, Anya Elborn, Mercedes Yardley, Kevin Lucia, Michael Whitehouse, Michael Wehunt, Caitlin Brooke, C.W. Brer, Cameron Chaney, who sounds really familiar. I don't know where I've heard that name before. Michelle Garza and Melissa Layson, Mike Duran, Gemma Moore, and J.D. McGregor. So lots of great authors included, and I say that humbly because I'm one of the authors. I do have a story in this called The Switch. There it is, The Switch by Cameron Chaney. That's me, if you couldn't tell. Anyway, this is for sale right now. And then we have Night as a Catalyst by the one and only Chad Lutzke, one of my favorite authors and a really great guy. He just re-released this as a revised and expanded edition. And this was one of his first books. It's a short story collection. So he revised a lot of the stories and then added a bunch more. So obviously I had to jump on this and buy it. So I've not read this yet, but I am very excited to. I also finally ordered a copy of Foe by Ian Reid. And Ian Reid also wrote I'm Thinking of Ending Things, which is one of my favorite books of all time. It really affected me. I was able to get this off of Book Outlet for like $6. And another book that I got off of Book Outlet was Disappearance at Devil's Rock by Paul Tremblay. I have read this already. I just wanted to get a hardcover copy for myself. This was only like $1 off of Book Outlet in hardcover. But there is quite a bit of damage. In fact, a lot of the books that I ordered were damaged, and they refused to replace any of them. Even if I sent my copies back in exchange for replacements, they still wouldn't do it. So I don't think I'll be ordering from them very much anymore. But I'm still happy to have a hardcover copy of this one. I also ordered a copy of Matt Serafini's latest book, which is called Ocean Grave. Looks like a good beachy summer themed horror. And next, my friend Jen from Twitter was super nice and sent me a copy of A Night in the Lonesome October, which is a book I've been wanting to read for a very long time. And she posted a status saying it was like her favorite book and asked me if I read it. And I said no, I hadn't, but I've been wanting to. And she just sent me a copy. So very nice of her. So thank you, Jen. You're awesome. And then in one of my Nightworms packages, I got a coupon for wordhoardpress.com where I could buy one book and get another one free, I think is what the deal was. So I ordered The Fisherman. This is by John Langan. This was recommended to me by a friend. He said I should definitely get this one. So ordered that one. And then the book I got for free with The Fisherman was Gignol and Other Sardonic Tales by Oren Gray. I think that's how you pronounce that. I've always been unsure about how to pronounce that exactly. But this says it draws inspiration from the likes of Roger Corman, Robert E. Howard, H.P. Lovecraft, and the theater Grand Guignol, Universal monster movies, Hammer horror, kaiju flicks, and more, all while creating something unique, intoxicating, and yes, cruel. So that sold me, obviously. And then I got a big shipment of Flame Tree Press books that I pre-ordered. The first one here is Hunter Shea's Creature, which I've heard some great things about. Also, The Nightmare Girl by Jonathan Janz. I actually do have a paperback edition of this that's signed, but I really wanted a hardcover to match all of my others. And then we have The Darkest Lullaby by Jonathan Janz, as well as Castle of Sorrows and Dust Devils. So I now have all of the Flame Tree Press Jonathan Janz books. I was really excited about these hardcovers because they all matched before. They were all about this size, they had that kind of spine, and I don't know what happened, but the books are kind of got smaller the later they went. My door just opened by itself and my heart kind of stopped a little bit, but I think we're fine. I don't think it was closed all the way. Anyway, like I said, the books have gotten smaller, so they don't match anymore. I was kind of hoping they would put out all of Jonathan Janz's books before they decided to switch the format, but it's fine. Just glad to have them all in hardcover. And then I ordered a copy of Teeth in the Mist by Dawn Kurtagich, who's one of my favorite authors of all time. I'll read absolutely anything that she writes. So I was very excited to order a copy of this one. Looks awesome. I don't know when I'm going to be able to get to it because of all of the review books, but hopefully very soon. And then I was on Instagram and I saw that the producer, Ryan Turek, he's a producer for Blumhouse. He produced the new Halloween film, for instance. He's also on Shockwaves, the podcast. I saw him post a picture of these and I had to have them. So we have Destroy All Vampires and Vampires Everywhere. And these are comic book replicas of the comics from The Lost Boys, the ones that Corey Haim reads in a bunch of scenes. Honestly, I don't know what website I got these off of. Ryan Turek put a link in his post, and I just clicked on the link and ordered these. I didn't even pay any attention to what the site was. But I'm really happy to have these. These are awesome. So those are all of the newer horror books that I've received for review or gotten from Amazon or Flame Tree Press. I'm going to cut this one here. So this is part 1, and then I will be back with part 2 where I go over some of my vintage horror books that I have accumulated over the past couple of months. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Later, creeps.